So recently, as of chapter 225, and then later expanded upon in chapter 226, we've been introduced to the concept of tiers or stages, as the official translation goes by. I prefer tiers. I'm gonna go. Sounds better than saying like stage two. Sound like I'm saying something about cancer. Either way, here we have now tiers of magic. And the confusion I think a lot of people are going off of, I've seen some videos trying to claim that they're power levels, but they aren't. If you actually, are somebody that's, paying actual attention to the series and not just, skimming it and then just making your own interpretations of it, they aren't power levels. They are some form of categorizing of the abilities, but they are of the magic themselves, not the user. They are of the grade of the spell being used itself. And I think that's a very large difference between, say, a power level, which is talking about the individual and their capabilities, whether, whatever stat it may fall into, versus this where it's not like, oh yeah, this magic has a energy level of what, this energy whatever, just trying to classify that as a certain more of power rather than the grade that the ability is in itself. I feel like grade would have been a better way to use it, better way to kind of describe the magics, just because of the fact that I think a lot of people are getting confused over it being a power level. Again, I think the best character to really relate this all to, I know a lot of people are going to go Asta, because Asta, as says like, oh, he's ninth tier because he doesn't have magic, but that's because they don't really consider anti-magic to be its own thing. I think anti-magic in itself is like, it's pretty much like would be in that tier zero, the swords themselves. But as it is, Asta, I don't think he would be a good comparison tool for this. But because of that, even though that, Asta doesn't have magic, if you're talking about the magic itself, then it's not really going to fly with him because he's an exception to that category. Now, if you count somebody I think that would be a perfect example of this, it would be none other than Magne, because Magne, he, unlike a lot of other characters, he doesn't have some crazy complex magic like type. It's not like spatial manipulation or anything. He doesn't have like some absurd mana pool. He doesn't have some like crazy way of dispensing his magic. Like if you look at his magic, I imagine if he was graded on his magic's tier, it would be pretty low. It would be probably like, I don't know, 6 or 7, or something not very good if you looked at it just there, because again, his magic isn't complicated. There's nothing really special about Magne while looking at a description of his magic. His is all about the implementation of it, and that's what I really wanted to discuss, because that's the large thing that separates a power level versus this. And I really like what Tabata is doing with the tier system for the magic, because it doesn't fall into that power level category. Again, it'd be like if you compared weapons. You could give a guy, you could be like, oh yeah, one guy's got a pocket knife while the other guy's got, a handgun. That level difference can implement things about them, but it really just depends at that point about, stuff like the environment, the person using it. Like again, Magna's magic is based around, he's got fireballs. He's got plain just fireballs right now. They explode. He doesn't have anything crazy special about him. He doesn't have any like hacks, broken spells. It's all based around how well he himself is able to use them. He's got like just plain exploding. He's got detonated ones. He's got ones that turn invisible. You can change your trajectory. And then like even his enhanced versions, it's just a larger fireball. He's got his scatter shot. He's got his bat to increase like speed and range of the fireballs. I mean, really, like the only thing like next you could get from him is maybe like an innate fireball where it just kind of stores up the energy, and then eventually maybe like a ticking damage over time or something like that. Maybe something like it's stockpiled and will eventually create a larger explosion. Either way, he as himself is somebody to, I think, to really press out the example of them. Another way to really kind of describe it is looking at Riya, because Riya's whole magic, his copying magic, he is able to take somebody's magic and apply it with his level of quality. because he's obviously very powerful when it comes to his level of mana. Say, if he took, say, I guess easy example again, Magne's Fireball, he would still be using that same magic. It would be still of that same tier, but it would just be a much higher version of itself. Because when you look at like stuff like that we've seen as this apparent like tier 1, you've got like Noelle, who's wearing her magic that's an all-around like enhancement ability, and not only that, as we've seen, when she's able to pretty much swim through the air like it's water, she's affecting the mana in the air. Whereas someone like Magne, all Magne's really got, he's just using it in a very straightforward and standard way. It's all based around the level of advancement of the magic, from what I can tell. It's all just looking at the magic standalone, just the way if you were to look at it, maybe like in a video game, if you were on a market, it would just be based on the quality of it, the level of brokenness it could be, or the level of just overall usefulness. And something like that versus the person like Sekri's magic would probably be falling under a pretty high category too, because it's got a lot of uses. But as we've seen right now, she as a character, her magic is useful, but she doesn't seem like a fighter. She's not, doesn't come off as any like way to really combat anybody. She doesn't seem to have any form of offensive capabilities. So I think that needs to be taken into account, because if you're just looking at like power levels, then obviously it'd be like, well, this character then should be automatically above these characters just based off of all these stats that you look at. All these characters shouldn't be able to surpass them, because of the way it is now. It's with it just being magic as itself and its quality level, then characters who are of lower grade, lower tier, should still be able to combat them. At that point, it's all up to the person using it. Again, Magne's a great example, because the way he combines all his fireballs into, he's got plain ones, the detonating ones, the self-detonation, time detonation, impact detonation, the ones that turn invisible. It just comes down to, like, he can beat characters much more higher, like, tier in terms of their magic, just because of the way that he is able to implement that. He's using a bunch of different lower ones and figuring out, that complex way to use them. It's all in his head, the way that he is making it himself a higher grade than what it would probably fall under this category that the Heart Kingdom uses. But anyway, I just really wanted to talk about this, as the system is. We've only got 2 chapters with it, and we've only got like pretty early concepts of how it works. We don't know what exactly is going to be like that. Oh, these are the determining factors for pretty much for the tier system. Again, like we know that affecting nature from what Gaja's doing is one of it. I'm wondering if it has to do with like the level that it affects the natural mana that's like in the environment. Again, like Noelle being able to pretty much swim through the air. And I just really wanted to talk about it right now, get it out of the way, at least from what we have so far, just because I see people trying to compare this to power levels, which it isn't. So, just wanted to slap that out there. But anyway, comment below, tell me what you thought about this and what your take on is all this. I mean, really, power levels, and I will say this before people say, oh, power levels are bullshit in the comics. Power levels are good if the author can keep them consistent, and it doesn't become a mess of like every single time a character pops up, it's like, oh, their power levels, this thing. And again, I think Seven Deadly Sins was a big example of that, where it was every single time a character had to do something that you had to talk about power levels like they were absolute, instead of just kind of like a gauge of being like, oh yeah, this character is, he should be within this area, and this character can be in this one. That's why I like kind of like tiers better, because it's a lot more vague and a lot more kind of like loose, where characters can go instead of like exact numbers. Like it's like, oh, a grade C and a grade B, that's good. But it's like, oh, this guy's is 8,914 and this guy's is 8,932. This guy should be able to crush him. Like, no. Stop. Anyway, comment below. Tell me what you think about this. And yeah, really appreciate if you thumbs up the video. But from the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. From that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed. I thank you all for listening. Bye.